Good morning, guys. I hope you're having a lovely day so far. Welcome back to the Better Luck Next Time podcast with me, Erin. And today we're going to be talking about social media and my relationship with social media, and just talk about the general effect it has on, like, my generation, our generation, if you're around the same age as me. Because it is obviously a big part of all of our lives, more so than others, especially with younger generations. We'll get through to that. But yeah, how is everyone doing? I am recording this on the finals of the Euros, so we'll see how it ages, but hopefully it's coming home. But is it? We don't know. I'm sure I will be editing this with the beauty of hindsight, thinking, ooh, or yay, but hopefully we'll see. So that's what I'm doing later, watching a bit of that. And I'm not normally a football girly, and I don't religiously watch sports. I've never been big on sports. Like, I can enjoy them. I've gone to a few rugby games and football games, and they are really fun, like, great atmosphere, but they're not something I commit to on the regular. So, but the Euros are different, aren't they? Like, the Euros and the World Cup, they're events where everyone kind of comes together, whether you like football or not, and it's just so much fun to, like, even just the part of it where you go to the pub, you sit with your friends or your family, you like make food, you eat, you drink. It's just great vibes, especially here in England. It's a big thing, especially going down to the pub to watch the footy. So yeah, going to do that. I think it is just a big thing with sports, isn't it? It's the same with the Olympics. Like, no one's going to be watching skiing on the regular, but when they're on the TV and it's the Olympics, I think everyone just switches it on just because it's the Olympics. So yeah, that'll be nice. That's all I've really got planned for today. This is the first weekend where I've genuinely had nothing planned, pretty much. And especially yesterday, I had a day of I went to the gym, I did some chores, just like boring stuff, like cleaned my bathroom, hoovered, not very well, but I did hoover, and yeah, I went to town. It seemed like everyone and their mum was in town. I saw 5 people I knew, and I think each person I had at least a 10-minute conversation with. So I was just like, all of a sudden, I went to the gym at 2, and then all of a sudden it was 5:30 or something stupid. Or 4:30. It wasn't as late as 5:30. But I was like, I've done 2.5 hours of just, I don't know what. So it was quite nice. It's almost a bit stressful sometimes. I don't know about you, but when you have no plans after weeks of being really chocker and really like all over the place, like driving places, seeing friends, I feel a bit like almost restless and stressed, like I should be doing something. I'm almost like, am I doing something wrong? Like, I think I should be busy, but we all need a rest, like, weekend where you just enjoy leisurely activities or doing chores. Not very fun, but if you saw my TikTok or my Instagram reel, I was trying to make that a bit fun yesterday, because I genuinely do like cleaning, but I don't do it often. Like, I'm not one of those girls that makes their bed every day. Let's just say that. I used to, but I think as I get older, I'm like, I'm going to get back in it. I should really. I know morning routines are probably very important, and I think that would be a great subject to cover later in the podcast. But yeah, so let's get on to the topic today. Social media is, depending on your opinion, I kind of have an opinion of that it is both beneficial and is also really toxic. I think it is a bit of both. Some people are obviously on one side and believe it's done amazing work for like communicating, connecting people all around the world. And then there's the other side of it that are like, it is just such a nasty negative environment that is it really worth connecting with people when people are also spreading immense hate? So both are valid points, and I think it also does depend on the generation you grew up. Obviously, we are told by like our parents and our grandparents that all we do is spend time on them, and I guess it depends how your parents react to the digital sphere. But not that my parents were really bad, but I would, especially when I was a teenager, probably when I was spending a lot of time on my phone, was them not understanding why I was spending so much time on it. They couldn't see the appeal. And then obviously you got the other side of it with the generations younger than us who are almost addicted to it. And I think that's hugely because, especially my brother's generation, so they're just becoming like teenagers, like preteen era, like they're only just hitting puberty, like they're still young, but they have very much been around phones, tablets, their whole lives, like since they were babies. Like that good old phrase, iPad kid, which refers to that kid you see that's chronically just on their iPad coughing into it, like. And the association with iPad kids is that, and I have seen it firsthand, they are very antisocial. And they almost don't know how to be in an environment or be bored and just be there. Like, it's almost as if boredom is like, you just can't be a possibility. And so they just are, depending on their parents, given the iPads to just sit there for hours on end just to like distract them and not interact. Or I can't even remember what the other point was going to be. But especially when I worked in hospitality, I saw a lot of kids be handed phones, and it was kind of like, felt like a brush off, like, you know, watch the phone so I don't have to talk to you. It felt very much like. And then as a result, when that was taken away, they were either like so rude, like so rude, so privileged, they had no concept of manners, or they just weren't talking to the people around them. They just didn't seem to know how to talk to adults or their, like, people their own age, and they weren't playing. And I think that's a huge thing in childhood. Like, I think our generation was one of the last to have a childhood where it was majority outside before we hit the whole phone taking over our lives. But in that sense, I do believe that it's having a bad impact on kids, because my brother isn't so bad. Like, my parents didn't let him have a phone chronically when he was a baby, but still he grew up with it, and it's just such a contrast to when I was a kid. Like, all I'd want to do is be outside, and I knew how to talk to people of all ages because obviously I was used to being taken out with my family and their friends and having a conversation with them, being polite, like not even daring to play up, otherwise you know you're going to get the grounding of your life. And we just knew how to be in a space and not be loud and not be like obnoxious, and just play and be content with just listening and watching the world around us. And that is a big contrast, because these kids are not nowadays. I know I probably sound so old, and I don't know if you guys agree, but I think it is a huge problem. I've already been talking 10 minutes. This is insane. I can really just ramble. So yeah, that's a big contrast. I don't know if you guys have siblings, I think, especially if they're very much younger, or you have friends that have kids, do you like recognise that this is like children are almost changing, and they're, as a result, appearing or wanting to be older but not having the social skills to replicate that, which is interesting. And I wonder, as they grow and, you know, that generation begin to have children, which is obviously a little while away, and then phones and networks and platforms continue to evolve into God knows what, because let's be real, the evolution of technology has been insane in the last 20 years. It's like still new and fresh, so there's so much more that could come, and it will be really interesting to see how else it's going to impact the even younger generations that they're not even born yet, who really are going to have it part of their everyday life. And now we've got AI to worry about. It's going to be weird. But yeah, that's the younger generation though. Obviously, as I was saying, my generation was very much still not introduced to technology until we were of a good enough age. Still slightly young, but I very much had a childhood where I was outside 95% of the time, and I would ride my bike, and I would go on my trampoline, and I would play cars, and I would play in the dirt, and I'd climb trees. I loved it, and a lot of outings with my family were to do with being outside and going on a walk to like the New Forest or going to the beach. So I was very much an outside gal, and I think a lot of that generation was like, in the summer you got up, you got dressed, you ate, and then you'd find where everyone's bikes were and you'd play outside until the street lights turned on, and it was just the most amazing feeling. I miss it. I do miss being a kid sometimes. We have a trampoline in our garden still, and I do go on it sometimes just to feel a bit nostalgic and feel like a kid. My boyfriend came around a couple of weeks ago, and he was like bouncing like a child, and I was like, oh, this is so nice. Why isn't this socially acceptable to have like trampolines in pubs? It's probably be dangerous, but yeah. So my childhood was very much to do with nature, and if I really wanted to stay in, the extent of my interactions with technology was the Wii. I loved my Wii. I used to play like the Lego games, loved it, and that was mainly if it was like rubbish outside weather. Like other times you'd be outside. And then I first got just like a brick phone because I started walking to school by myself, well, with friends, when I was like 10, but you couldn't do anything on it. So my first interaction with the phones we know today, like something similar, was probably in year 9. So I was, 14, which is still quite young, but it, like, social media and stuff wasn't what it is today. And I remember joining stuff like Facebook. Snapchat came out around that time, which is insane. And then like doing Instagram, and it very much felt like I'm on this because everyone is on this, all of my friends, and you didn't want to be the one that's like didn't have Facebook or whatever, because it's like, oh my god, I want to be cool. I want to be part of the cool bunch. I want to see what everyone's like posting. I want to post my own selfies, see how many likes I get. That's what it was all about, wasn't it? Like, let's see how many likes we can get. And I remember it just taking up my whole evening especially when I first signed up, and then thus forth, I was obsessed with it. Like, we would like hold our phones under the table in school and like try and like text each other. It's like, why are we trying to text in a lesson? Like, what's going on in our lives at 14 that we desperately need to try and text our friend in science class? Probably some like hot tea at the time, because let's be real, everything was dramatic back then. It's like, oh my god, like, did you hear so and so kissed at the party last weekend? you can't wait until break. It's just not an option. So yeah, obviously the introduction was, I think 14's a pretty good age. It's not the best. You're still not exactly mature and prepared for what social media can throw at you. But I say it was better than the younger generations having to deal with it from like literally like toddlers age. So yeah, and I remember being so vigilant with my social media, especially stuff like Snapchat. I had a thing where I needed to open every single Snapchat story and watch them. I couldn't leave them. Like, I was like, no, I can't leave them. I need to see what everyone's up to. And then there was that stupid thing, streaks. I don't know if you guys did this. It was huge where I'm, like, in my school. It was such a big deal. Everyone did streaks. Like, people you weren't really even, like, talking to. Like, you weren't, like, friends. You'd probably have a streak with. And I think some people had ridiculously high streaks. Like, I think one of me and my friends had a 3-year streak, because we were all so obsessed with this number that showed up next to your friend's name on Snapchat if you like sent a photo of each other. Because back in the day, I don't know if you know, Snapchat was just photos. That's all you could communicate. You didn't have the messenger part of it. You had to do it on the little photo, and you had limited amount of words you could use, but not that we'd say much. It would literally just be someone's face or whatever, and it would say streaks. And I remember even having one of my friends give me her account because she was going on holiday, and I was in charge of keeping her streaks. Isn't that insane? Like, that we were doing that we were so obsessed with this, that we were getting people to like almost social media manage our accounts at like 15 so that we didn't lose streaks. And people would send it like up to 4 times a day to make sure there was no chance they'd lose it. And when you lost it, it was people got angry. It's just insane to me that was part of our, and we thought that was so important. And then just one day we just woke up and were like, why are we doing this? Why? I think it took embarrassingly long. I think it took until sixth form to realise, what are we doing? I think going to uni really had a big impact on my drifting from social media. I think because uni is obviously, your first year is so nerve-wracking and exciting, and although you're on social media as you're interacting with your like housemates and you're like swapping details, swapping Snapchats, swapping Instagrams. It's quite a busy time, especially freshers and stuff. So you don't really have time to be scrolling Instagram when you're getting shit-faced. And I think that almost was a good thing. Not getting as drunk as I did, as often as I did. But I started to separate myself from digital life. I was still very much online because I was still very young. I was 19. So obviously still a lot of our lives were posting about uni and like, oh, look at me, I'm in freshers, I'm going clubbing, I'm an adult now. Like, you do want to show off, like, look at me, I'm living my best life. But yeah, I started to drift, and then I started to become self-aware with my relationship with social media probably about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, like properly self-aware, because it was starting to take quite an emotional toll on me. I know everyone isn't the same, but I felt like social media had a lot to do with a lot of negative energy in my life. And I know lots of people are react to different things in lots of different ways. Some people are really good at separating real life social media, or just able to detach themselves from like news stories. I've never been very good at that. I'm getting better now, but I'm very much someone who is affected by negative people, which I think everyone is, but some people are able to brush it off easier. I am getting there. But a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, it really affected me. And it got to the point where I was seeing a pattern that the more time I spent on my phone, the less sleep I'd get, the more I'd be anxious, the more I would come out of my routine. So there was a lot of correlation between the two. So I started to notice it, and then, because at the time you don't think like, of course the phone isn't making me lose sleep, like that's stupid, like what is the phone doing that's gonna make me not be able to sleep well? But sorry to break it to you gals, it does. I will admit it helped so much, because obviously we're all a fan of doom scrolling, especially TikTok. Like when TikTok came in lockdown, like I joined it in lockdown at least, it was my saving grace. But then you come out of lockdown and you've got all that time, you can go outside now, but yet you're not, because you're in bed scrolling for 2 hours. Especially before bed. It's just a force of habit, isn't it? So, and obviously blue light is supposed to disrupt your sleep. And also watching certain things that may trigger something in you are going to cause you to not be in the mood to sleep, either because you're energized or because you're worried about something that you've seen, and then that can sometimes implement into your dreams. I've definitely watched things that have affected me for such a long time that they have seeped into dreams. And it was getting to the point that, although it was such a negative part of my life, I would like roll out of bed in the morning and it would just be the first thing that I see. So sometimes you've got to be honest with yourself and go, I've got a problem. I've got a problem with this. And I did have a problem with being on my phone a lot and relying on social media to entertain me. Going back to like kids nowadays that don't want to be bored, like it's almost as if we've learned to not want to be bored. Like when we were kids, if we were bored, we'd go and find something to do, whereas now you're bored, you look at your phone. And not even that, like sometimes I will just be sat watching TV and I'll just pick up my phone for no reason. Or sometimes I will just look at the screen and just put it down, make sure, have I got any notifications? Or I'll just turn my phone on and scroll through like photos. Like we have kind of gone from our childhood where we were free to explore different hobbies and find what we want to do, enjoy things when we want to do them, to relying on something that isn't tangible to bring us joy, when half the time it doesn't at all. So yeah, I had to become very self-aware and honest with myself, which I think I've spoken to a lot of my friends about, and we've all had that kind of chat with ourselves and each other where we recognise the bad aspects, but we can't resist sometimes. Like it's insane how much of a drug it is, like surgically like embedded into us, like how it feels like it is an attachment of you. Like you've seen people that like freak out because they've lost their phone, or they think they've lost their phone, or yeah, so it is a really negative part of my life in some aspects. I do wonder, do you guys feel the same with your relationship with social media? Has very much shifted now that you're self-aware, and are you trying to take yourself away from it? I am doing better at taking myself away from it because my screen time was ridiculous. I used to spend too long, like embarrassing amounts of time, and now I, rather than scroll, I try and watch YouTube videos instead, rather than just aimlessly like scrolling through feeds. So I say, if I want to do stuff on my phone, try and make it like a YouTube video of stuff I want to watch that may be informative or actually like entertaining, on like stuff I want to watch, rather than going on TikTok or Facebook and seeing things I don't really care about all the time. So yeah, but obviously there are positive aspects to social media. It is an incredible way to connect with friends and family. I know you can text, and to be fair, I have started shifting more to like WhatsApp and texting, but it is still really good if one of your friends relies on a certain platform to connect to them, and even just to see what's happening in their lives and feel like you know what's going on with them. Although social media obviously isn't a mirror, it's not a reflection of reality, it's still nice to like know how they're doing and know that they're safe. It's just like a nice comfort, isn't it, sometimes, to like scroll through old memories or new memories. And it is also really beneficial to just, in my opinion, campaign and spread awareness for things. Social media has done some insanely good things when it comes to GoFundMes, raising money for people that need it, spreading awareness against people who have done wrong, bringing justice, all sorts of reasons. It's really, really, really helpful to those who need to get information out there to as many people as they can. It's incredible, and it has done some good. Like, people who are doing a charity run, they will share it on their Instagram so that people can click a link and go donate. And obviously that is so much more effective than word of mouth, because half the time, unless you're close with someone and you do it straight away, you will probably forget if you hear about it. Whereas if it's online, you will just click and go straight onto it. And if you can't do it just then, you will just leave it on a tab open and just go back to it. So it is immense for that. Again, going back to negative aspects, it is also a big spreader of misinformation and disinformation. And I think that is also something I've had to learn. You've always, always, always got to check your information, because sharing of opinions has been mistaken for facts. And as much as it is someone's responsibility to say that this is just an opinion and not fact and spread it as if it is gospel, it's not how the world works. So we do have to be careful, because I'm sure there's been many a time that I have shared something that is not true or is like out of date. So I'm really, really, really careful with what I share and what I believe online, because some people are out there to trick you, but some people just don't know and don't check themselves. So I've always made a habit now of going onto like the sources they link. If they use sources, it's normally a bad sign if they don't. Look into the story elsewhere. Look if there's any evidence of this even being mentioned anywhere. If you do that, you will be flabbergasted how much isn't true. Like, it's quite funny. It's quite a funny bit of misinformation. So, if you guys have watched Saltburn, yeah, we won't discuss it, but if you've watched Saltburn, you'll know who Barry Keoghan is. He's an Irish actor. And then if you've watched that as well as Euphoria and stuff, you'll know who Jacob Elordi is. Like, I think every girl knows who Jacob Elordi is, right? He's gorgeous. But yeah, so obviously they work in Saltburn together. And I was talking to Mum about God knows what, and I think we got onto the topic of celebrities, and I think I just recently learned that Sabrina Carpenter and Barry Keoghan had started dating, and I said to her oh, that's such a weird pair, but I quite like it. And she just so confidently turns around and goes, "What are you on about? Barry Keoghan's gay." I was like, hold up. I don't think he is. He's got a girlfriend. And she was like, no, he's married to a man and they've got a baby. I was like, this is news to me. Does Sabrina Carpenter know? I was like, Mum, I think you're thinking of someone else. Are you thinking of Tom Daley? She was like, nope. Barry Keoghan, definitely Barry Keoghan. And I was like, can you show me this, please? She goes on to good old Google, pulls up a photo of Barry Keoghan and Jacob Elordi at an awards ceremony. She's like, see, that's his husband. I was like, Mum, remember he's in Saltburn? She was like, oh yeah. And I was like, they're not dating. They're not married with a kid. They're both very much straight. And they're not together. So it's just funny, isn't it? Because I mean, that's kind of that's a harmless bit of misinformation for the most part. But it's just so silly. It's you just had to look it up and look. He's not. Like, who was spreading that? It was probably on Facebook. But it's just ridiculous, isn't it? I thought that was hilarious. So yeah, we do have to be careful, because just people make up stuff or just believe anything. Like, I know some people are just gullible, but for the most part, I know I have been guilty of, I've been tricked myself. So it is something we've got to watch in this day and age. So yeah, I think they have benefits, they have pros, they have cons. I'm just trying to think of more benefits. That's really bad, isn't it? That I thought I'd have more benefits to talk about with social media. And don't get me wrong, I do love social media. And a lot of what I do with this is obviously on social media. And a lot of what career-wise I am interested in is to do with visuals and obviously involves social media. But you can love something and still see it's not always going to be the best thing for you. It's like I love alcohol in moderation, but if you have too much of it, it's going to be bad for you, and you're going to end up feeling worse for it coming out. So, like booze, I think we should treat social media as we need it in moderation, because again, like booze, it can be so addictive, and you can get a high off it, or it's kind of like Russian roulette, or you could feel worse and come out of it feeling really negative about your body, feeling really negative about your financial situation, feeling really bad about just the general politics or the state of the country. So yeah, that is also a big thing. And I think another reason why I had to detach myself from social media, because I did recognise that I was comparing myself to a lot of girls, and I didn't have any resentment towards them at all. It was all pointed towards me, the resentment, because I was constantly wondering, why can't I take a photo that looks that good? Why does my body not look like that? Why does her candid photos look so flawless and mine looks candid? I really don't look like I'm trying. And it was just becoming so obsessive that I would generally get really, 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 really depressed about how I look. And I think that was partly built over years from when I was a teenager, growing up, looking at other people's like counts and followers, and all these famous people you probably followed at the time, and you're thinking, oh, why don't I look like anything like them? And obviously the power of makeup, lighting, editing is great. So although these women are obviously beautiful, they obviously, especially if they're in the public eye, they do have alterations to their images, because they've got a certain reputation to uphold, they've got a certain visual appeal to, what's the word? Let's say do. Very official term. So it's hard to look like that when you don't have those resources. You know what I mean? You don't have makeup artists, you don't have hairstylists, you don't have professional stylists, unless you do. I don't. I'd be very shocked if any of you guys do. We're how much money are you making? But yeah, you just got to remember those resources are not available to everyone. Therefore, you're not going to look like celebrities on social media, or even normal people and friends of yours that you think just, oh my god, they look incredible. Maybe they're thinking you look incredible and they're wondering why their photos don't look as good. Like, it's just a vicious cycle. We're all probably suffering. We're all probably comparing ourselves to one another, when really we should just celebrate individuality and uniqueness and the beauty of each and every one of us. And just because someone else is beautiful doesn't mean you're not. And just post whatever you want and don't give a shit about like counts, how you look, how the lighting is, if it's trendy, because you'll just be spending too much time focusing on how your life is looking rather than how your life is feeling. So yeah, I think that's the episode done for today. I really did just ramble there. I don't know if that was coherent. It probably wasn't. I didn't write anything down. I thought it's fine. Like, I won't make bullet points like I normally do. I'll just spew absolute BS to you guys. And it probably sounded like it. You were probably like, it was probably like ADHD brain, like, we're on a new subject. That was like 5 seconds long. Like bouncing. But yeah, I would be very interested to know how your guys' relationships with social media is, if you feel as though you're separating yourself, if you feel as though you are more reliant on it than ever at the moment. I'm really interested to know how your interactions with social media is and how it makes you feel. But for the meantime, yeah, I hope you guys liked this video. I hope you enjoyed my absolute rambling. But yeah, please like and subscribe and come back next week, next Wednesday, for another episode of Better Luck Next Time. And I will be seeing you guys very soon. Bye!